King DDD, everyone's favorite penguin-like obese royal highness. Sometimes he's a rival to Kirby, other times he's just an asshole, and a lot of times he's not even in control of his own body. Today, we're gonna look at King DDD's character in every mainline Kirby game and rank him from worthless to elite. In the King's debut, he makes a strong case for himself. Not only does he steal all the food in Dreamland and leave the people to starve, but he also takes the sparkling stars, which the people need to harvest more food, so they're kind of fucked. Until this guy shows up. Kirby collects the sparkling stars as each level's beaten, and the final battle up on Mount DDD is kinda simple, but a solid effort on DDD's part, so he'll go pretty capable. Instead of causing mass famine like the last game, here he does the most unforgivable thing of all time. He takes away the people of Dreamland's good dreams. You monster. Yeah, it's really not that bad. He splits the star rod that powers the Fountain of Dreams into 7 fragments and scatters them across Dreamland. But when Kirby recollects them all and defeats him in a pretty lackluster battle, he goes to put the star rod in its rightful place and DDD runs after him, begging him not to do it. This honestly paints him as super helpless and degrades him a good bit, but we shortly realize why he was so hell-bent on stopping him. He's not even the main bad guy. This dude Nightmare is. And despite DDD's best efforts to keep him at bay, Kirby released him. So in actuality, DDD was protecting Dreamland from a more evil and powerful Nightmare villain. And Kirby messes everything up, but with DDD's help is able to save the day. Because of that, he's going in sorta useful tier, because he did successfully hold off Nightmare for a while and helps Kirby reach him at the end, but his plan was kinda stupid and was easily foiled. If it weren't for a miscommunication, he'd probably go up in Elite, but it is what it is. In this one, the main bad guy is once again not DDD. Instead, it's Dark Matter, and he possesses King DDD to make him do a bunch of bad stuff. He steals the rainbow bridges that connect Dreamland to the Rainbow Islands, but again, he's only physically doing it. He's being controlled by a separate entity. And once he's defeated and Dark Matter's released, he just lays there, and Kirby moves on to fight one-on-one. So DDD doesn't do anything, and is a pretty straightforward worthless tier. This game's a tough one to gauge, because it's split into a bunch of smaller minigames, but his role is somewhat consistent. He only appears in 3 games. He's the main bad guy in Spring Breeze, which is basically a retelling of the first Kirby's Dream Land, he's a boss in the arena, and he appears in Gourmet Race to face off against Kirby and see who can eat more food while running a marathon. Not his most serious role, but he's either a genuine villain or a competent rival here, so pretty capable. This one brings back Dark Matter from the second Dreamland, and once again, he possesses an innocent DDD and makes him commit bad. And after he's freed, he just stands around and lets Kirby do all the hard stuff. So it's another easy, worthless tier. King DDD is a way more complex character in this game, and I say complex very liberally, but still. He's first seen overlooking his kingdom from the top of his castle, where he notices a crystal shard behind him and snags it right before Kirby and Co. can. He taunts him with it for a second until his best bud Dark Matter lunges at him out of nowhere and makes him his bitch again. Cue the boss fight, Kirby opening a can of whoop-ass, and DDD left feeling violated and sad. But after seeing the rest of the group leave to continue their quest, he begrudgingly runs after them because he doesn't think they can do it alone, showing that he deep down sorta cares about Kirby in a very Tom and Jerry kind of way. From there, he's an ally for the rest of the game, and becomes fully playable for the first time ever. Kirby hops up on his back and goes for a piggyback ride, while DDD runs around smashing stuff. It's sick. He helps Kirby through levels he otherwise probably couldn't beat, and is right there with the heroes for a majority of the game. So I'm gonna give him the respect he deserves. Elite. This is the one Kirby game that DDD doesn't appear in, and since I don't have He Gone tier, he going in worthless. This game opens with Kirby winding down with a nice piece of strawberry shortcake, and right when he's about to munch, something swoops by and snatches it. And Kirby knows the only guy around who would do such a thing is none other than King DDD. So he storms into his castle out of pure rage, beats the fuck out of him, and finds out it wasn't DDD who did it. Sorry, bud. After that, the actual thieves show up and run away with the goods. But right before they can get away, DDD throws Kirby full force at the perpetrators and hits him right on, sending the group down a deep pit, and that's all we see of him. So his treasure chest gets stolen, he does nothing wrong, and gets beat up for it as a measly early game boss. Pretty embarrassing, but sending Kirby at the bad guys kinda came in clutch, so it'll just barely keep him out of worthless. Barely does anything. I'm including a remake for the first time ever, document this occasion, but know that I wouldn't be if I didn't absolutely have to. Just like the original, it's a bunch of smaller games packed into one, but they added a brand new one called Revenge of the King, and it's a reimagining of the much harder extra mode from the original Kirby's Dream Land. DDD and his troops look way more menacing than ever, and the cutscenes of Kirby scaling Mount DDD are way more cinematic than a DS game deserves, but it's great. And the final fight against him is similarly awesome. There's no lighthearted crowd cheering in the background anymore, just one of his remaining troops in an empty arena. His new hammer and mask make him look a lot more intimidating than usual, and it's probably the hardest fight against him we've seen until this point, which doesn't say much, but still. This is his best role as a villain, so if he was pretty useful in the original, I think I gotta bump him up to Elite here. In this game, the main bad guy is a new one, Yin Yarn, and he's the one messing with Kirby from the start. DDD's mostly just minding his business and committing some minor OSHA violations, but Yin Yarn starts mixing in Waddle Dee lookalikes with his regular troops until they outnumber his army and conquer them. And from there, Yin Yarn sends him to the Yarn world and makes him do his evil biddings for him. Hey, I've seen this one before. He shows up for a boss fight in Snowland and is being physically controlled by evil puppet strings. Seeing his typical attacks be converted to an arts and crafts style is actually really cool. It's just too bad it's not him doing any of it. I gotta give him another Worthless. He's unable to fend off Yin Yarn and actively makes saving the day harder by being contorted into a villain. So, when Kirby returns to Dreamland, it's a pretty different dynamic from his previous adventures, mainly because the once selfish ruler is now an ally from start to finish. The opening cutscene has a little debacle over some more strawberry shortcake, but they immediately forget all about it when a spaceship crash lands on Dreamland. And upon further investigation, they find a poor, helpless alien dude that's definitely not evil, and they team up to help him find all the pieces to repair his ship. DDD's playable throughout the entire main game, and is just as useful as Kirby, making this a pretty easy Elite for the King. This game promotes DDD from his typical role of being controlled by a bad guy to one where he's kidnapped by the bad guy and needs Kirby to go and rescue him. These two don't get along all that well, but Kirby still goes on a full-blown expedition to save his rival. Each world's boss further and further degrades him, as he helplessly gets dragged away from the scene and can't do a thing about it. He's a damsel in distress, so it seems like another easy Worthless. But hold on. At the end of the game, the bad guy Taranza turns the king into Masked DDD, and puppeteers him just like an epic yarn. It's a pretty challenging fight, especially the second phase dubbed Masked DDD's Revenge. But after that, he's left passed out on the floor while the real main villain comes out for a multi-phase boss battle. So Kirby does the fight all by himself and isn't able to beat her, and with all hope seemingly lost, DDD swoops in last second, frees him with a massive swing of the hammer, and tosses him to a miracle fruit to become Supernova Kirby. Because of that, I'm gonna put him in sorta useful, because without him, Kirby couldn't have beaten the final boss, but I can't get that image of him getting helplessly dragged away out of my head, so it's holding him back. It's also worth mentioning, there is an extra mode in the game called DDD Tour, where you play through an altered version of the game as, you guessed it, DDD. If he's able to beat all these levels on his own, it shows him to be pretty darn useful, but since he doesn't for the main story, it doesn't really boost him. This game opens with him chilling on the patio outside of his castle and playing chess with a Waddle Dee, when suddenly a large shadow looms overhead and scares the shit out of him. This big robot mothership lands on planet Popstar and sends a bunch of troops and mechs down to the surface, so he has his minions start firing cannons at the invaders, but it doesn't do jack, and the ship demolishes his castle in seconds. After that, he himself is completely absent. You fight a DDD clone later in the game, but he's unconscious in his castle's rubble until after Kirby saves the day. He stands up to the foreign threat, but it does nothing, so I'm gonna put him in Worthless. A bunch of meteorites are plummeting toward Dreamland, and the king is mere feet away from one of them hitting him. He got pretty lucky, but they're still protruding some weird gas, and because of course it does, it makes him evil once again. He's fought pretty early in the game, and the first half is your same old Deeds battle, but then he goes full on swole, ripping his robe sleeves right off and revealing one handsome figure. Despite his physique, he's still just a World 1 boss, and after you beat him and the muscle bob arms deflate, the game tries to be cute and fake being over, but is really only just beginning, now with DDD as a friendable ally. So yeah, while the boss where he's jacked isn't actually him, it's still a good look for him, and being fully playable beyond that point makes him essentially the same as he was in Return to Dreamland, so this one's going right up there with it. And finally, we've got Kirby in the Forgotten Land, where he's once again a brainwashed villain. When he's pulled to this mysterious world alongside Kirby, he first tries to find his pal to help him, but is eventually overcome by some dark force known as Fecto Forgo, and joins the other beasts of the land. Kirby first encounters him at the end of the 4th world, where he looks a hell of a lot more primal than usual. He attacks as he normally does, but for the second half, pulls a pillar from the battle arena and starts swinging that thing at Kirby. And I know I said this before, but this tops all his previous fights in my opinion. This caveman-looking DDD is menacing as hell, and these attacks pack a punch. But after quote-unquote beating him, he fakes being KO'd, kidnaps your companion for the game, and runs off, and isn't encountered again until the end of the game, where he ups his appearance from last time and wields 2 hammers. This is a really challenging and well done fight, and after a defeat this time, whatever was controlling him vanishes and brings him back to normal. But then they get overran by a bunch of actual enemies, and one of his own Waddle Dees is left behind and unable to escape. So despite his own well-being, he goes back to save him, and costs himself an escape. What a guy. Still though, best bosses in the series, albeit well possessed, and a pretty heartwarming sacrifice, so I'll put him in sorta useful. And there you have it.
At University of Maryland